Oh, hello. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Killteam Metawatch article for Q1 2023 that recently went up on Warcom. Now, I say article, it's more like a 40-minute video. So I have gone through and I am going to try and summarize the key points. It's a really interesting video and a really comfy watch, and if you like long form talking head content, and if you're watching this channel, you probably like long form talking head content. So do go and give Games Workshop's Metawatch video a watch. It's well worth it. Right, so onto the summary. The first thing I pulled out was some thoughts about why they didn't buff Kasrkin. So when the balanced data slate came out, a lot of us thought, oh, Kasrkin again, and I go, but Kasrkin need a buff, Kasrkin. You almost couldn't move on the internet in a kill team related circle without somebody going full on rage tomato mode about Kasrkin and their ballistic skill and everything else. And I feel like we got a little bit of insight into that. So Kasrkin have the same win rate, apparently, as intercessors. So they didn't publish their data this time round. They didn't do the usual little article that they usually do with the balanced data slate. More's the pity. I loved that little article. But their basic view is that Kasrkin have the same win rate as intercessors, but the pick rate is 1.5%. Compared to intercessors, which I think they said had it was the most popular team in the setting anyway. So they then sort of say, look, the box sold out, that the separate release of Kasrkin isn't out yet. They didn't say, but we know a lot of 40k players have bought up those boxes, those kill team boxes, because they want the Kasrkin for Warhammer 40,000, where apparently they're very good. People are selling the Kasrkin they have for kill team on eBay for silly money. Like, it is actually hard to get hold of a set of plastic Kasrkin, is the argument. So the speculation and the inference, I guess, that I'm drawing from this is that Kasrkin didn't get a buff because GW want more data about the Kasrkin. And because they think, actually, Kasrkin might be pretty good. Yeah, there's a load of talk about how awful they are, but the data suggests that they're doing really well. Like, I think it was a 45% win rate. That's not bad. That's pretty good. So we will have to see where that goes. Maybe when a lot more people start trying to play them seriously, their win rate will go up. Or maybe when a lot more people start playing them seriously, like, their win rate will go down, because right now it's only the diehard fans that have them, that are playing them, that are probably the better people at Kill Team. Maybe, I want to say. So we'll see. I think either way, it's not a case of Games Workshop are wrong, Kasrkin are clearly broken, because what they're saying is, well, we don't know because we haven't got enough data, and we like our decisions to be data-led to an extent. So I think that sounds fair. Again, I still think they should have had a full breakdown and rationale article alongside the release of the balanced data slate, but perhaps, for fairness, they didn't want to, like, they say it in a video, but there's a big difference between saying something in a video and writing it down on a website in terms of how easily shared it is. Maybe they didn't want to write down in black and white, like, oh, basically, we didn't make enough Kasrkin, we screwed up this product release of this product, and we're a publicly traded company, and we didn't make enough of the popular thing that everybody wants to buy. Like, I can see them not wanting to write that down in an article, so maybe that's why we got no article alongside the balanced data slate, where they basically would have had to say, we're not buffing Kasrkin because we didn't make enough Kasrkin for people to actually play. They also, it stuck it in here because it was an interesting point, and it kind of fits in here. In that they didn't. If they did buff Kasrkin, it wouldn't be to add models to the team. We kind of all knew this or had speculated it, but just confirmation that they really don't like saying, oh, we're going to buff this team such that you have to go out and buy a second box of the team. So even if that would be the best way to buff them, you might think Kasrkin would be good with 12 models. They will not do that. So that's just confirmed something that I already thought, a lot of people already thought. The next topic I want to talk about is terrain. So Elliot, the lead designer of Kill Team, as much as he could in an edited and somewhat like self-serving, not self-serving for him personally, but self-serving. Like, Games Workshop is not an unbiased reporter of Games Workshop's products that they want to sell you for money in their publicly traded company. So as much as he could get across where he actually felt in the video, I picked up on a little, well, masked, and I think he's a little frustrated that there are these different terrain metas and people with these ideas about not putting vantage points in deployment zones and doing things in a certain way, and then it varies from region to region. And he really wanted there to be some. He seemed to say that there was some way they were going to go for some way of standardizing that more. Now, my speculation, my inference from what he said is perhaps, we're expecting Season 3 to be something different again. Season 1 was sort of classic Warhammer terrain. Season 2, Into the Dark. Season 3, something else. What if Season 3 is whatever else they do with it, whether it is, as I've kind of speculated before in the comments section, like a Death Worlds expansion. But what if Season 3 effectively soft replaces Season 1, in that they're like, well, this is open world, but it's going to be open world on some kind of bespoke terrain set, which is modular and goes along with actual terrain maps. Like, for me, I know I've been saying I think they should do terrain maps for a long time, but it does seem like it's something they could do if they had the terrain set and they were like, no, this is enough terrain. This is the terrain that you need. Because what I worry about with the Season 1 terrain boxes, they've never presented them really as everything you need to play Killteam. And you go to Warhammer World, they supplement the terrain in a lot of cases with a lot of extra pieces. If they actually have the popularity to get a whole bespoke kind of modular terrain set done for the open world that is labelled up in that way, that could be a way that they obviously, all we really know from the video, this is just me speculating, all we really know from the video is that Elliot thinks it's a problem that he'd like to solve. I would expect to see some way of them solving it some way in the future. Mixed format tournaments. So this is another one that's a personal kind of thought of mine. It's nice to see that the Killteam lead dev seems to agree with me on this as well. I've been wibbling on about how cool it would be to have events where some of the tables were Into the Dark and some of them were open world, and you had your fixed roster, so you had to adapt and take different models depending on the table you're fighting on. And there's quite a little section of the interview that he's sort of describing, I assume, the sort of setup they're going to have at Warhammer Fest, where the tables will be fixed layout. For anyone that's played at Warhammer World, they don't run Into the Dark at Warhammer World, but they already run it this way so that the table you're on is randomized. They don't have a top. They don't have table 1, and the people that, like, being on table 1 doesn't mean you're the top seeded 2 players. It doesn't mean anything. The table number that you play on is randomized, so they don't have to change the terrain layout. And he was saying that they understand how labor intensive it is to set up the Into the Dark tables. So what they I think will do it fast is they'll have 3, 4 Into the Dark tables that are fixed to certain layouts from certain layouts from the pack, and they don't change, and you rotate around the table, and you might find yourself on Into the Dark table, and you have to look at your roster and go, right, I'm on Into the Dark, what am I going to play differently on Into the Dark? I think that's really cool, even though I'm currently maining Star Striders who have no roster, but I think as an idea, going into tournaments where there's a mixture, where you might play on Into the Dark and you might not, is I think that's really cool. I really do think that's cool. Elliot seems to think it's cool, so at least he agrees with me. I know there are other people out there in the wider community who want it to be all Into the Dark or all open world, but I really think the thing about having a roster and having to pick, and it gives an extra kind of feather in the cap to teams like Wormblade that can really they can pick the right tools for the job, depending on what kind of board they're on. I think that's pretty cool. Sniper nests. So this is the real hot acid take from this video. So I think this is the most standout part for me of the whole video. Elliot's, again, as far as he could in the constraints of the format and it being quite a corporate thing, he seemed quite a passionate defense of silent snipers on vantage points. And again, he seemed frustrated that metas were taking action into their own hands to frustrate safe silent snipers on vantage points by having kind of house rules around terrain placement and conventions around terrain placement. And the new Fortify card is him trying to pull a lever to say, no, we want there to be a sniper who's silent, who's on a vantage point, who's, reasonably safe until didn't say this part, but presumably until you get your person with the crack grenade or whatever else up there. Like, we want that. And he specifically called out Necrons, Kroot, Bloodied, and Kasrkin as teams that are underperforming because they're not allowed to get their silent snipers on vantage points because they've been frustrated by meta ideas about terrain placement. And he kind of implied that's why those teams are underperforming. I'm not sure whether Necrons, Kroot, Bloodied, and Kasrkin are all teams where their fates would dramatically improve overnight if only there was the occasional, vantage point with light terrain in their deployment zone. Maybe they would. He did acknowledge this would potentially be a massive buff for Pathfinders, who also have silent weapons, but he basically seemed to take the view to me that he would, we're gonna nerf Pathfinders if that is the case. We're gonna keep an eye on Pathfinders, but I don't want to nerf the whole mechanic of silent snipers for the other more balanced teams. What was a little worrying to me is no mention of Vetguard. Vetguard have one of the best. Like, one of the interesting things about Killteam is a melter gun is a melter gun is a melter gun, but I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, there's no two sniper rifles that are quite the same, right? Every faction sniper rifle sort of works slightly differently. The Vetguard sniper rifle is very good. Vetguard already have a lot of tricks when it comes to, the number of other weapons that they can take and things. I do think it's a buff to Vetguard as well if people start putting covered vantage points in. I don't know if that they need the buff, but certainly the teams he mentioned, Necrons, Kroot, Bloodied, and Kasrkin, are teams that are perceived as doing less well. I mean, I know people talk up Bloodied at the moment, but that really legitimately is just because of Chris Backey going to that one event with Bloodied and doing really well. I think in general, if you talk to people, they are still regarded as weaker teams, and they're supposed to be getting more mileage out of their snipers. And I know people aren't going to like this. I know there are a lot of people with very strong opinions, like, oh, Killteam is only where it is because we came up with these kind of, I don't know whether you want to call them house rules or you want to call them community kind of conventions or what about terrain placement. But the thing is, it's not desperately consistent, because there are people that say, oh, you can never put a piece of vantage in a deployment zone. And then there are the people that say, well, you can put a piece of vantage right on the edge of the deployment zone. Then there are the people that say, well, you should never put a piece of vantage within a dash of a deployment zone, because especially now you've got the dash fly, but they were saying this even before. And then people say, oh, well, it's okay if the vantage point is bald, and it versus not being, versus having the cover on, but now you can place the cover on it. And then there's the thing about, well, how scoreable do you want the vantage tac op to be? It's really difficult. So I think people need to. I'm going to suggest, I don't know if Zimbabwe's going to watch this for Friday, I'm going to suggest that we just put the terrain wherever we like, and if people end up with vantage points in their deployment zones, maybe that's fine. Maybe that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily want to be in a situation where one side of the table has a vantage in a deploy. You can still make, I'm not saying you just need to throw the terrain down with reckless abandon. You can still make a terrible situation where one side has a vantage point in their deployment zone and the other side just has a pile of light cover and they sit there and die. Like, I get it. I get why people are so wary of them. But we have it from the lead designer that actually, it's supposed to be reasonably accessible to those silent models. So do with that what you will, but it's certainly an interesting thing I pulled out of the video. Right, final thoughts, which we all know is going to take a full, well, we're almost at the 15-minute mark, so maybe we'll take 5 more minutes on this slide, I don't know. One other thing that was in the article that most people have seen, but it was also in the video, the TAC Ops cards is being reprinted. It is completely sold out everywhere. They didn't realise it would be as popular as it is somehow, despite it being functionally mandatory for everybody that wants to play Killteam beyond the sort of Garage Hammer level. So good. If you're still waiting for that card pack, you should be able to buy one soon enough. I don't understand why a company that's worth more than British Gas is so bad at making enough products for the people that want to buy it. It's a whole other rant, right? I love you to pieces, Games Workshop, but you make the things, the people want to buy the things, the people are prepared to pay the price that you want to charge for the things, and then you don't make enough things and piss everybody off. Like, is it... I don't know. Do let me know down below what I missed from the video, right? Because it was a 40-minute video, and I'm trying to distill it down and pull out the key points. There was a lot of rambling about stuff that I thought was interesting to hear it out of the designer's mouth, but not particularly groundbreaking, right? So I've tried to just pull out those things that are newsworthy, right? To give them to you in a short amount of time. You may have watched the video, and I have made some inferences and a little bit of speculation. You might say, well, no, I watched the video actually, and I don't think Elliot was calling out community terrain placement at all. You know, make that comment down below. I'm interested. I could simply be confirming my own biases here, right? That is certainly possible. I'm not going to get offended if you call me out for that, if that's what you think's happening. Likewise, if you agree, if you watch it and you come to the same conclusion, let me know as well. But a healthy conversation. I'm not a cult leader. You're allowed to disagree. I mean, please don't swear at me, but you're allowed to disagree, okay? It's funny. I now have the urge, after his kind of thing about, oh, Kasrkin are actually pretty good, and if only people let their snipers work, and this, that, and the other. I have a real urge to paint my Kasrkin. I want to do something really challenging and different with the Kasrkin. I want to try and do, like I was a little kid in the 90s, like the sort of Gulf War, you know, like I do all my stuff on a desert base anyway. I really want to try and do like a Gulf War desert camo style thing. I don't know if I have the technical skill to paint to pull that off, and people always say don't paint your minis camo because they're too small and everything else, but I kind of want to try that, but it's just like I've got so many things. I'm supposed to be painting these Legionaries as Legionary Challenge, which the deadline for that is coming right up, by the way. And there are people in my Discord shaming me by painting by posting these like nearly complete, fabulously well painted, fabulously well converted Legionaries, and I'm just like, I really need to finish my bleeding Legionaries. I really need to paint up and be able to play on my own set of Into the Dark terrain, right? I built my Necrons, my Heretic Circle. I kind of want to paint them. Now I'm thinking about the Kasrkin. I said I was going to paint those Star Wars miniatures at one point, right? I just, there's a lot of stuff that's shouting, paint me, paint me, paint me. And between everything else in my life, there's not enough hours in the day, but there we go. Please run on the YouTube treadmill for me. Do all the things that the algorithm likes to promote my channel. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. You're not doing it for you, you're doing it for me. Okay. The metric really helps. I know I don't particularly browse my subscriptions either. I just go to YouTube and look at what's recommended, and it usually recommends me stuff. And if there's people that I really like, I'm in their Discord and I get a ping when they post a video. Like, you're not subscribing because you want YouTube to tell you about my videos. It doesn't do a very good job of that anyway. You're subscribing so that YouTube knows that more people like my stuff and promotes it to more people, and more people find it, and then more people subscribe on it. Like, you're doing me a solid. So please just think of it that way. The same with liking the video. It's just doing me a solid. Comments, I would hope actually a genuine community engagement, although I do get the occasional comment that's just comments to the comment guy. I've done it myself. I've left comments on people's videos that be like, I'm leaving a comment for the algorithm, and I tend to get a reply back saying thank you very much. Yeah, but you know, comments are great when they're proper community discourse as well. Although if you want community discourse, Discord, funnily enough, is the best place for your discourse. That's why it's called Discord. Never mind. If you really want to be a superstar and send me some money every month by becoming a channel member, then that is a thing that's available to you. I haven't made a member exclusive video in a little while now. Sorry. There are, it's a thing I do sporadically. There are some there, though, that you haven't seen if you're not a member, so you might want to go and watch those. Some of them are pretty funny, I think. I think that's it. I think that's all the begging I need to do. I think I've done the whole thing. I think the video's over. That's cool. It's almost exactly 20 minutes long as well. So good. Thank you. Cheerio. Have a good evening. Bye bye bye.